Aye.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Hello, good people of the internet. This is Brian Courtney with Short Bus Debate Club. Thank you once again for joining us. As always, I am with my co-host, Darren Jolly.
Hi.
This week, or I always say this week, this episode, we are going to be talking about the Trump phenomenon and trying to figure out exactly what the hell is going on and if that dipshit can be reelected, but I know Darren's got some thoughts on it.
Well, in one of the previous episodes, I mentioned an interview that Slavoj Žižek had where somebody asked him who he would vote for in the 2016 election if he were a U.S. citizen, and he said that he would vote for Trump. And everybody went crazy when he said this, and I don't know if he sort of has backpedaled on this statement a little bit because he took so much flack over it. But when he originally made the statement, he said Hillary is the embodiment of an establishment candidate, and she created an impossible coalition. She connected Occupy Wall Street to Wall Street itself. And Trump represented a hard deviation. Now, part of the reason why everybody criticized him over what it was that he said was that Trump was dangerous, and this was something that Žižek acknowledged from the get-go. But he was also suggesting that you need somebody who can threaten the structure of the system if you're going to get the system to change at all in the first place. But what ends up happening in this moment, we've seen something that both Žižek and William Robinson kind of like talked about, where when you start to have crises in capitalist systems, your hegemonic position with regards to the way that the state reproduces itself starts to dissipate. And when I say hegemonic, I mean like a system that reproduces itself through consent, which means that something comes in from the side that's more authoritarian, or in the case of Trump, sort of like reflects this sort of like neo-fascist rise. And a lot of the rhetoric that was coming around what happened on January 6th reflected this sentiment where these people were suggesting the system's not functioning anyway, so we're just going to take it back by force, which is sort of like a beginning of the end kind of way of thinking about stuff. But when I think about the Trump phenomenon, these are the kinds of things that I'm wondering about. And there's a lot to it, but it definitely represents a shift from where you had like. The Republicans were essentially like identified as neocons. Generally speaking, the centrist liberals were identified as neoliberals, and they were sort of two sides of the same coin. One of them would deal with sort of like transnational military positions, and the other one would deal with sort of transnational legal positions, creating spaces to where the WTO, the IMF, the World Bank, NAFTA, all of these different sort of like institutions and treaties would allow for the functioning of a new kind of system that transcended the nation-state system.
So I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with anything you or Žižek said. What I think, though, when we're talking about the Trump phenomenon is that we can't talk about, because our entire idea behind the show is that we want to see where our stupidity is taking us. So I think that we kind of have to look at Trump, at least to some degree, as a civilian prior to his presidential stuff. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but I mean, the fact is, he was a pretty shitty businessman from the point of running hotels and things like that. He wasn't very good at it.
Proprietary education institutions, not good at that either.
What he was good at was selling his fucking name. And that's actually how he got by for all of those years was because he would sell his name to some investor from China or Japan or the Philippines, Malaysia, wherever. And then they'd build a hotel and, it would be called Trump Plaza or whatever. So he's a shitty businessman, a pretty good salesperson. He understands what people want at any given time, I think, because he's a salesman. And that is important when we're talking about what it is he's trying to do, what it is he did while he was in office, and really how he got elected to begin with. I mean, because he was supposedly being honest with these people, right? So he got the entire fucking Rust Belt to vote for him. He got bikers to vote for him. And when I say bikers, I don't mean like Lance Armstrong bikers. I mean like
motorcycle guys,
Hells Angels
yeah.
guys.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that it was the Hells Angels or the Banditos or any 1% club necessarily, but it was a lot of them. So he got a lot of people that didn't traditionally vote anyway to vote and vote for him. And somehow he still has this group of people that is, your traditional Republicans, the farmers that are like 80 years old now. Apparently the bikers and the Rust Belt people who have just been fed up with politicians for forever. And so he's got these people in addition to these fucking weirdo, fascist, almost neo-Nazi type of people that are running people over in Virginia and, storming the Capitol in Washington, D.C. So he's got a pretty wide breadth of personalities that he talked into voting for.
So do you think... so some of what you're saying there is that it's, like you said, there was a Trump before there was a President Trump. And he had this name that he was selling. And that was part of what he brought to it. But he brought this rhetorical spin, like with what it was that he was doing. Like, I know that he was struggling in his activity. He started to dip when they were still in the middle of the primaries until Steve Bannon came in and said, dude, you need to start talking about... like you said, the Rust Belt. You need to start talking about deindustrialization. You need to start talking about immigrants. You need to start talking about this kind of idea of the United States as something that's been lost that we need to get back. So, I mean, is this what you're? So, like you said, the name, but there's like this other.
Well, but it's more than that, and this is what I was trying to figure out, because I didn't think for a million fucking years that idiot would be elected. But he knew how to play people like, a violinist plays the violin. I mean, he was that good. He belonged in an orchestra because he was just plucking strings like crazy. And part of that, sadly, was the stuff that you'd think that there's no way he's going to get elected now. Like when he's saying, well, yeah, I grabbed her pussy.
Grab her pussy, yeah.
Whatever.
He gets a lawsuit from a porn star, I mean, what the fuck, dude? And he's not even still just he's not the president anymore, and he is still the center of the entire US political universe. Biden is a distant second. He dictates everything in the Republican Party still right now. I mean,
well, that doesn't say a lot about the Republican Party. Honestly, I mean, serious. So, you can only let someone bother you if you let them bother you. And if you continually respond to whatever, a tweet or an allegation or whatever, then you are assisting him by keeping him in the spotlight.
Yeah, everybody. It's like a car crash. You know, I mean, during his whole presidency, it was a Twitter car crash. You know, where everybody just kept looking at the stupid shit that he'd say or the inflammatory things that he'd say. What was he going to say next? This is the president of the United States. Can you believe? And it's like a I don't know, a slasher film or something that you can't fucking take your eyes off of. I mean,
right, and that's exactly what it is. And I don't think that it's a good thing.
You know, if you say if that's really what it is, it's not just not saying anything about the Republican Party. It's not saying something about the Republican Party. It's saying something about the entire U.S. population when it comes to electoral politics and how we think about our system. Because everybody was, you know, sucked into that. Not everybody, but there was the vast majority of the U.S. population that pays attention to things was sucked into that dynamic.
I'm not even talking about the election. I'm talking about now. Because you said he is still, you know, the center of this universe or whatever. So then why is he still, you know, the center of this universe? That's why I said, you know, you can't respond to a tweet or you can't respond to him because we're really the ones that are keeping him in the mix.
But I think so. The reason why I started to talk about all those structural things at the beginning and talking about neocons and neolibs and about how they were both two sides of the same coin. The vast majority of those politicians are protecting their financial interests that extend way beyond any of the interests of infrastructure. You know, everything that you do as a normal representative of the citizens becomes secondary because they're just busy trading stocks and, you know, shaking hands in back rooms and trying to look like they're. I mean, you remember, and I'd mentioned this before. You remember coming up to Trump being elected. You had Bush 1. There was a commercial. It had Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, and I think Obama's wife was on the commercial too. And they're talking about why we can't elect. I mean, these were people that hated each other, right? So the whole point, the reason why I think that they pulled all those people in, people know when they're being duped. And the system of the way that neolibs and neocons function for their own private interests demonstrates that they're being duped. And you can't sit there and say, I'm looking out for you, but I'm basically fucking you every time I fucking put something in play.
Yeah, I don't think that people actually know when they're being duped. Because if they did, we would be in an entirely different situation by now. And I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about Bush 1, Bush 2, Clinton. I'm talking about Obama. I'm talking about all of them. Pelosi and fucking
Schumer, yeah.
All of them.
McConnell, yeah.
I don't think people know that they're being duped. And if they do, then they use that shit head argument, you know, well, it's the lesser of two evils. But, you know, you say it's two sides of the same coin, but that doesn't talk to the Trump phenomenon.
Well, it does, though, because so there was this vacuum that created this space for something different to come in. That was what it opened up, I think. I mean, when they just kept doing and saying the same things, they were looking for an outlet.
I always said that if I was going to run for president, that I would just be honest with people.
I remember.
You know, I said that I would tell everybody that I smoke pot and that I've had, you know, DUIs and that I did all of this stuff and that I would just be honest with them and I'd tell them, you know, I'll try to help you guys get jobs. I'll try to bring jobs back. But more than likely, there's not shit I can do about it because labor is cheaper elsewhere. You know, the only thing we can do is become better at something else. And then we can get jobs, right? So I was thinking about being honest with people. Now, Trump, I think, did that to some degree, but I don't think that that's all he was doing. Like I said, I think he was selling something. And it might have been the Trump name. It might have been his fucking weird orange hair thing that he's got going.
It's the Trump snake oil. I mean, that's what it really looks like.
So But now we're again, I mean, they're talking about running him again, right? Mm-hmm. So if they run him again and he's reelected, then does that mean people know when they're being duped?
Well, when I say that they know that they're being duped, I don't say that they, like, when changes occur in a system that are so drastic, like what's going on in the United States right now, and throughout the world for that matter, to be perfectly honest with you, and why we have to coordinate so many of our policies with the policies of other nations, because essentially we become integrated into those other nations in many respects, right? Nationalism was this thing that was constructed that people have such an emotional affinity to. Like, it's how you reproduce the system that allows it to continue to go forward. It's how it doesn't fall on its face. So if he ends up being in that, so I guess the duped thing that I was saying is that they don't understand fully what they see, all the changes that are happening, but they can see that well, that guy's saying some bullshit. You know, Paul Ryan saying some bullshit, Mitt Romney saying some bullshit, Barack Obama saying some bullshit, Joe Biden saying, so all these motherfuckers are essentially saying the same thing, you know, just a little bit different, you know. So I don't think that they understand the dynamics of the being duped, but they know that there's something that's afoot. You know, they don't get the full depth and breadth of what it is that's happening with it.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that they're just so happy that someone they voted for got elected that they don't give a shit.
It's just like catharsis at that point in time. Oh, that fucking sucks.
You know, so all this time we've been talking about this nationalism, and I think it's funny because when I hold the door open for a girl or whatever, they always talk about chivalry. Well, chivalry is just nationalism. I mean, it's basically saying, hey, go team, go USA.
Holding a door is go USA?
No. Okay. But chivalry is. But nobody realizes that. And it just made me think about that because it's kind of funny because, well, it's not funny at all. It's actually pretty fucking scary because when you talk about all of the nationalism that's going on, the nationalism that's being created is this weird, you have to be this tall and this color and this type, and it's really xenophobic, and if you come from somewhere else, we don't appreciate you at all. And what it really is, I mean, let's be honest, it's just fucking racist.
Yeah, it's
hate.
It's very Aryan, yeah, with the way that it plays out.
And who knows? Maybe somewhere, you know, I mean, maybe in Zaire they're saying nobody from the Congo can come in or whatever. And so you don't have to be white necessarily. Maybe their nationalism is still just as hateful, but against a different group of people. But in Hungary, it's a white thing.
Yeah.
In Russia, it's a white thing,
but it's a certain kind of white thing. Like there is anti-Ukrainian and anti-Russian dispositions in those spaces, but then there are also really strong, like integrative kind of like weird. You know, I mean, there's the strain of one and there's the strain of the other at the same time. It's a very odd.
So, how do we kill the Trump phenomenon? I mean, because when I say that, I'm not just talking about Trump, because really I think he's a fad. It's one of those things that's going to go away, right? At least that's what I'm hopeful for.
Not automatically, though. I mean, not without something happening. Not without, if these internal contradictions that are allowing him to come to the surface. So this is one thing I was reading last night when I was thinking about it. All right, and it's out of a book, William I. Robinson, Global Capitalism and the Crisis of Humanity, page 163. He says in this section is called 21st Century Fascism. He actually wrote the book in 2014. It was way before Trump. He had not even announced. You know, I mean, it was already in the printing, and it says. So he's talking about the crisis of capitalism in this moment. He says the crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old is dying and the new cannot be born. So like I'm saying, you have this system of nation states, but you have this political economy that's functioning on a global level. We identify at a nation state level, and that's the way that the system reproduces itself. But when it becomes more integrated, something else has to happen, because we start to realize that this is just a bullshit dance that we're doing every time we do our elections.
So then are we talking about one world order? Is that the change you're talking about?
I mean, part of it is that we're all incorporated into that space on some level. But when you say one world order, I don't. So he says so. And it was a quote from Gramsci that he was quoting. So in the interim, a great variety of morbid symptoms appear. So when something new comes, when something like that people resist, and the change is like materially already existing. Like, I mean, are you just going to quit? You're going to reincorporate all of your production positions inside of the United States? I mean, these things are already happening, and the sphere of power is existing above it. So like you said, with Trump becomes this space of catharsis where the anger and the inability to be effective can be played out, like even if it's just in like a Frantz Fanon, kind of like the way that he talked about violence in relation to colonialism, where he compared it to a dance, next to the fire. It's just a symbolic act, I mean, all those you go back, you watch January 6th. Did you see anybody that was there that was not white? I mean, there were a couple of people, but everybody there was white, and they were going through this sort of like fantasy sort of dance violent act that was purely symbolic on every level. They were never going to fucking get the whole thing.
Right. And I know what we're doing is trying to make people think. And I know we are two of those people that we're also trying to, think deeper and wider. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying, well, one, goes against everything that I've said, at least in a couple of previous episodes. And two, it scares the shit out of me.
Okay, what was the one thing? What's one?
The one thing is that I've been stating for a long time that this isn't black or white or Mexican or Asian. It's poor and rich. Mm-hmm. It's the haves and the have-nots. And I think that a lot of those people on January 6th happen to be have-nots. And I think that, like any gang, they recruit you because you have a low self-esteem and you don't feel like you're part of something. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's, what happened. But if that kind of recruitment continues to happen, and the have-nots that happen to be white are gathering, then these people in the sphere of power above them are going to have their own little mini militia.
Tool.
And the word mini is just used as a placeholder more than anything. Uh-huh. They're going to have their own fucking army, really.
Yeah.
Where
so how does that go against what you said before, though?
Because what I want to happen is that all of the plebes, proles, have-nots gather together, regardless of race, color, or creed. And what you're saying is happening is that the have-nots, proles, plebes, are happening to gather in one place if they're white.
Okay, so you created a distinction when you said that, though. You said that I'm saying that there's something that's happening, right? And you said this is something that I want to happen.
No, I said that it's scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah, but you did say what I want to happen is, for the numbers of the people who are don't have real power or disenfranchised in a number of different ways, to gather and to understand that they have a common situation, and to really band together in that space, and there's this other thing that's happening. So that's what we both agree. We both want this to happen. But what scares me is that, like you said, in the meantime, there's this other thing that's happening, and it is, dude. Of course, it's fucking scary. I mean, like, even as I say that what happened on January 6th was symbolic, it's not just symbolic when a president who clearly lost, former President Trump, you clearly lost. You're a fucking idiot. Don't be fucking dumb. You clearly lost, and you still maintain this ridiculous bullshit because you're trying to motivate people to do things that are counter to the system that's been functioning for all this time. But like we were talking beforehand, I brought that thing up. So there's this thing called Schedule F. It was something that he was trying to put in place. Being President Trump before he went out of office, and it was this act that would allow him to purge some 50,000 civil service members. This is something that if he comes back in as president will come up, and that one little group of Aryan bandits that are motivated to act on behalf of the president because they don't believe the system is functioning anymore. Because that's essentially what he's saying. He's essentially saying the system does not function anymore. You need to put me back in power so that I can, give you pride back. But the system is not going to function.
And that's why I used the term militia when I said mini militia, at least initially. I don't necessarily think he's going to be the one in the sphere of power above it. But what you can see is that clearly, if someone smarter and better organized and not as loud, because the loud part is the not dangerous part, but the loud part is the part where some of those things aren't going to be able to happen because of how loud it is, right? So if you're quieter and you've got this power and money behind you, now you can start to organize and get things in line where you don't know what the fuck they're going to do next, right? Mm-hmm. But that's part of the scary thing. And the thing that bothers me more is that if these loudmouth Trumpers are doing it here, right? And they're, A-beers or whatever, then maybe somewhere else we've got other groups that are banding together, and they're just all black and all Mexican and all Asian and so on and so forth. So you end up with all of these multiple mini militias again, instead of just one that would be, hey, we're the have-nots. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand, but I don't think that, and of course, like, because I'm hopeful, you would hope that if you create a response to that type of incredibly reactionary activity, like through those white militias, that could codify, could form. We don't have to do it. Other people can do it in a smart way where we're not bound by these identity spaces, but of course, like, there's nothing. The only thing I could say is in the wake of the George Floyd killings, the protesters were multiracial. But
a lot of those people were the white guilt people, the ones that just want to jump in.
They don't understand the real,
because they're woke.
Yeah, they don't understand the real. They don't want it because these people are prepared to do some pretty awful things. The angry white, yes.
Because Trayvon Martin, some of those people did the same thing. Anyway, I didn't mean to get you too far off of Schedule F, because I know that was kind of what you wanted to talk about. It bothered me because I saw this thing building, and if it keeps building in my head, or I should say if it keeps building in real life the way I see it building in my head, then we're in for some dangerous times.
It could turn into race wars. That's the scariest thing, and we don't, I hope that people are smart enough to know that the money that's behind this, because Trump, quite frankly, isn't any different from Hillary Clinton or, he's just in it to make money too. He's using those people as a tool, I mean, and this could turn into an incredibly nightmarish tool.
And I think that that's what people need to realize, is that he is using them as a tool for, whatever means, because he can say he did that, and now, maybe he's offered a radio program, or maybe he's making money off of his Twitter account because he's got 1.2 million followers, or, same with YouTube and whatever. And I don't know how that works. Maybe he can't make money off of it because he's planning on running. But either way, I mean, he can go and charge $50,000 a plate at a pancake breakfast. Now, that's who's going to show up to that pancake breakfast? That is another question, because the guys that stormed the White House don't have $50,000. So who is the money behind Trump?
Well, after the thing happened at Mar-a-Lago, and I know we're tangenting all over the place now, but after the thing at Mar-a-Lago, all the people that were critical of what happened on January 6th, all the mainstreamers, a couple of them didn't fall in line. But like, what's the governor of Florida's name? DeSantis. Yeah, he had been highly critical of Trump, and he fell in line.
Right.
I mean, all of these people who were critical of that moment recognize that he still is the anointed king. I mean, quite frankly, So I think that he's got a lot of people that would pay $50,000 for that.
Oh no, he has people that would pay, but that's my point, is that the ones that can afford $50,000 for whatever, maybe it's not pancakes, maybe it's salmon.
Because that's an important point. I
Yes.
mean, if you're going to pay $50,000, you should at least get a good piece of meat out of it.
Pancakes are cheap, dude.
Yeah.
So who's going to spend $50,000 anyway? So that was what I was trying to point out, is that the ones he's got running around doing stupid shit for him are not the ones that are paying for the lunch. DeSantis might be.
The Saudis, to be sure. Israel, for sure.
A couple of Russians.
Yeah. Definitely a couple of Russians. Not anybody in the FBI or the CIA. But the other thing about, and I just real quick before that was it F, section F, or function F? Schedule F, yeah. It's odd when people talk, I mean, the deep state is real in some respects. I mean, because if you get people in a certain position of power inside the CIA, inside the FBI, you can have a continuity of policy directions and activities to make sure that the trajectories are the same. That's part of the reason why you keep those people in place. But if he was capable of purging them and then putting other people in those spots, you think the bureaucracy inside the Soviet Union was punishing? We have way more capabilities than they do. So the ability to observe, the ability to punish opponents. I'd like to think positively. I like to be hopeful that he wouldn't be that aggressive with regards to it. But since when he was elected, there were the people who were in those intelligence agencies were so aggressive towards him from the moment that he won the election. I think that he would probably want a little bit of revenge.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so that Schedule F, and I haven't read it, but based on what you're telling me and being able to purge whoever in civil service is problematic for a couple of different reasons. One, we're talking about people that know and understand an organization from top to bottom, regardless of what organization we're talking about, right? Whether we're talking about the EPA, the FDA, or the CIA.
Yeah.
Right?
Not just intelligence, many other institutions.
So they know the ins and outs from top to bottom. They know what works, what doesn't work, all of that stuff. But if we focus just on the intelligence aspect of it, there are intelligence agencies out there that Well, honestly, we don't really know about. Okay, so the government has admitted to having, I think it's a total of 9 intelligence agencies. I can't name all 9. I can name the CIA, the FBI, Department of Naval Intelligence, the NSA. Those are the big ones. If you consider the DEA intelligence, but technically the DEA
Is a part of the FBI.
Well, the ATF is part of the
Okay.
FBI.
Okay.
The DEA is separate. So the DEA, so now I'm at 6.
Postal inspectors are part of the FBI.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and maybe the 9 that they admit to are just subsets of another one. I don't know. The point I'm trying to get at is that if there are organizations that we don't know about, like let's say there's a group that has a budget large enough to open up black sites all over all over the world, and then to utilize black sites for whatever. Plus they have safe houses and all kinds of other shit. If there's an organization that has that capability and that power, then I'm pretty sure they have the capability to see what Trump is doing and shut him up if they want to. Mm-hmm. And I would think that after... So there's a couple of things, right? Safety. You've got all of these people in the field, deep cover ops and Al-Qaeda and whatever. There's also, sadly, there's deep cover ops inside, say, Tyco or Hyundai or, some of these corporate organizations, mm-hmm. because they're getting intel that way.
Yes.
So all of these deep cover ops, if you're going to purge them every 4 years, there's a danger aspect to that for the people in the field, I think.
My concern was, of course you're right. That is absolutely, and I, as cynical as Brian and I always are, I want you to appreciate that he just said something that was not negative about the need for intelligence. All right, that was a landmark thing. I never thought I'd hear, but security is an important thing, and there are people that are out to harm aspects of who we are and what we do. But what I'm really afraid of is not a shift every 4 years. I'm afraid that this is a shift that will be permanent, and that we will not have. We might have elections, but they'll be like Putin's elections,
Yeah.
There'll be fake people that'll be put up, and there'll be fake people counting them. I mean, I really like after the way that the metaphor of the dance that went on January 6th. We need to be mindful of how the internal contradictions in the system are creating problems to where things like this are happening, and how if we don't find solutions to these fairly quickly, you can basically kiss the ass of democracy all the way gone. And we know that it's just very it's not really strong right now anyway.
We're on the precipice.
Yeah, we are.
We're at a Rubicon. we're at a decision point. That fork in the road.
It's fucking scary, dude.
So what's even worse is that it wouldn't matter who won that war, right? So Schedule F gets passed.
Yeah.
Or it's about to be passed. Well, that starts a war, because these people that are entrenched in this, somebody who's been in their position for decades, or even if they've only been there 3 or 4 years, but they've been in that organization for decades, they're not going to let that happen. But let's say, no matter who won the war, now they can install anybody they want at mm-hmm. any point. Because if the intelligence agencies win, now they've got the power to do whatever the fuck they want. And if the executive order passes and he can purge whoever he wants, then he can just install puppets all around him all the time.
Well, then, so the other side of it, like the Democrats, their rhetorical disposition since Bush has been, they're just too dangerous. They're just too dangerous. So they would follow that line of logic to justify all the bullshit that they would be doing. Yeah, you can literally see there's all these rhetoricals because again, you know what they're going to say in 2024 when the elections come around. Because barring Trump, having a heart attack or a stroke or having somebody come out and take care of him, he's going to run for president in 2024. So the rhetorical dispositions already, like MSNBC and CNN and all them, they're already, you can't. It's too dangerous. He's so dangerous. He's the most dangerous, and there's a measure of truth to it. But for fuck's sake, they don't fucking learn anything. They're just as bad. They're all fucking horrible.
But that's why that's what I'm saying. The best way to take care of a bully is to not acknowledge said bully. If he's pushing you, you've got two choices. You either push back or you walk away. Mm-hmm. If you push back, you'd better be ready to maybe get punched in the face. But more than likely, he'll walk away because he's a bully. That's what they do. They pick on those that they think that are scared of them, that they're not going to do anything, that they can intimidate. But if you ignore them, generally they quit. And if you push back, at least after that initial fight, things kind of cool down.
How do you ignore him if he's running, though? How do you... especially because you have all these people that...
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that now, leading up to it, once he starts running, I don't think you can ignore him once he announces.
Yeah.
But for the time being, don't give him his...
Yeah, I never, like, when Jeannie would talk to me about his tweets, I'd be like, dude, I don't get his tweets. I'd never follow him. Because of exactly what you say. I don't want anything to do with fucking... Because, every time you complain about him, you're giving them power. Because it's all about that energy, that attention.
Well, you go and you complain to somebody. Let's say you're doing water cooler talk. Or you go to, you're talking while you're in line at the coffee shop or whatever. Mm-hmm. You talk to somebody. Well, now that person is going to go talk to somebody else about it. Did you hear about that fucking tweet? So on and so forth. And it just spins out of control. Mm-hmm. And now it gets back to him that all of these people are talking about it. And he's got more juice. Yeah. And so instead of just sending out one tweet, he sends out 40. And they all say stupid bully shit. And now 40 people are doing it. And it just grows exponentially.
Well, so, of course, what you're saying...
That's my growing sound effect. Sorry.
MSNBC and CNN, they say that that he's an existential threat. But they made so much fucking money as a news agency while he was president. They covered him, and they will... When he announces... Like, they're feeding what it is that you're suggesting has to be, neutralized.
For a reason.
Yeah, because they're making fucking tons of money out of it, of course.
Absolutely, and all of them are. And that's why I say you cannot trust the news. And if you're going to do it, spread it around to different news agencies. Don't watch MSNBC solely. Spread it around to... And it's not going to get much better, but watch the BBC.
Listen to Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar.
Spread it around. Listen to Al Jazeera.
I'll occasionally even listen to The Hill. I find a lot of stuff online. I don't get...
Spread it around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mother Jones.
I have to find stuff to listen to. I don't have time to read, so I don't have time to sit and watch.
Well, mostly, sadly, these days, it's hard to find anything to read because everybody has put it on video now. Mm-hmm. You can't... When I go to the newspaper, I used to be able to go and read the newspaper. Now you go to their online site and it says, whatever, click here. And you click there and it's a fucking video of... So they're not newspapers anymore.
Well,
it's some weird...
They are there too as newspapers, but there's paywalls. And I hate fucking paywalls.
I don't like those either. Okay, so we are now coming up on 45. I think we should just ignore him, and I think we should also not vote for him in 2024. But I do want you to vote regardless of who you vote for. So if you're gonna vote for a dumb cocksucker, you might as well vote for him. That's kind of my closing thought on everything. Darren, what do you got to close?
I mean, the thing that really scares me the most, that even as we're moving up towards it, there's a gal. She was the mayor of Buffalo. I can't remember her name right now. She was in for just a little bit, but she was a socialist, and she got booted out, and she's working with these people to try to get a different person other than Biden to run as a Democrat. I can't believe I can't remember her damn name. But I almost got it. Never mind.
Almost got it.
But she was on Bad Faith the other day with Brianna Joy Gray, and well, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago, and Brianna asked, she said, so you're doing all this work to try to get somebody else other than Biden, who would be the good person to put up, and she didn't even have an answer. Like, the problem is that Trump is the focal point, and the Democrats are so fucking wishy-washy. Like, the best thing that they can put up right now is Pete Buttigieg, and Pete Buttigieg is a fucking idiot. So,
well, I Bill Maher, which I used to love him as a stand-up comedian. His show kind of sucks now because he thinks he's got so much juice.
yeah, fuck him.
But basically, Bill Maher doesn't even like any of the Democrats or So anyway, later on this week, we're gonna do banned books and the list that goes along with them. We also are coming up on political correctness. So those are the episodes we got coming up this week. Make sure and join us on Wednesday and Friday.
India Walton was her name. Sorry, India Walton. Sorry.
So join us later this week, and don't forget Twitter, Short Bus Debate, TikTok, Short Bus Debate Club,
And 720, right? 334, roll.
7655. All right, people. Thanks.
Later.